Now here is part 2. Hopefully you watched the first part of this. But Arius has been taken back to the base, and he's on a stretcher and everything. This was one of the more detailed edits that I made. I got his eyes closed. He's got that bloody hole in his cape, and he's being carried on the stretcher. I could do all sorts of stuff back then. I wish I could do that now. Photoshop's a lot tougher than the iDraw character maker. But I really just, this next series of scenes, I really, am impressed with still. I'm really quite fond of story arcs like this, where one of the main characters, is in a sort of near-death state like this. Because that kind of thing brings out a lot in terms of the characters. You get to see them basically mourning, even if the character's not dead yet, but just sort of in that mode. And it's that's not something that you get to see all that often necessarily, depending on the story that you're doing. So I always really enjoy stuff like this, or enjoy writing it. And so this devastates them. They just thought he was going to the suburbs and was going to come back, and instead he got stabbed, and he's on the edge of death. And so Nova's rushing in there and trying to help the doctors cure him. And meanwhile, Galdar is trying to keep everybody, from freaking out too much. Turnus is very upset. And it's one of these things where anger is like not going to help. And maybe with that, he doesn't really know what to do in situations like that. That's how he deals with things. He gets angry. And in a situation like this, what can you do? What's it going to do? You're going to beat up the stretcher or something? You can't do shit. And all you can do is just hope, like Galdar says in a little bit. And it's tough. And a lot of characters kind of come together as a result of this. And now this is a pretty long bit here, where Molly and Nova are going to get to know each other. And I've even got look at that, I've even got the bloody stretcher over at the side of the room. That is grisly. Now we're going to learn the nature of the wound. It's not just a stab, which if it was a regular stab, the healers could probably take it pretty easily. But it's the black wound, which is a infamous dark magic technique that shows up pretty often in the Celeste mythology. I don't think anybody got hit with the Master of the Wind, but somebody probably mentioned it. It's a move that not only do you stab somebody, but you sort of infect the wound with dark magic, which makes it resistant to curing spells, and thus much harder to treat. And Lysander is aware that Nova's a healer, so he sort of took that extra step when he ambushed him. And again, that's Lysander in a nutshell. Friggin' strategic genius. And that kind of villain is way more interesting than like a bumbling idiot. I gotta say, that's just kind of makes the stakes a lot higher. But Nova's determined to beat the Black Wound, even though it's very difficult. And she's trying to pass the time by chatting with Molly. And this, I believe, I wrote this maybe like pretty close to the election of 2004. Which anybody who was sort of following politics at that time will remember how depressing that was if you had opinions like mine. So there was a lot of sort of venting here about politics and everything, and I find that it's actually, and I'm realizing this now just from reading this, when it comes from a character like Molly, who is generally collected, not too overpowering, but firm, it works better. Like, there's a lot of times in Master of the Wind where, Sod is going crazy about something, and it's not always, you don't really take him seriously. He's so, into it, he's so over the top and, emphatic, that you almost want to, make fun of him, because it's, and that's, that was intentional. I wanted Sod to be this sort of guy who, wasn't necessarily mature about some things, and even though he was smart, he wasn't always, I guess, honest about how he engaged with issues, how he spoke about issues, and you sort of see Sod mature over the course of the game. That's a large part of what Master of the Wind is about. It's his his horizons expand, and he understands the world better, and that makes him able to be more effective at the things at reaching the goals that he has. And the goals don't change. Your ideals don't change. But the way you sort of advocate for them can change, and it can change for the better. And that's Saad's character arc in a nutshell. And in this case, Molly Barca is an older woman. I mean, not older, not like, middle age or anything, but she's probably in her early 30s. She's only a little bit younger than Lysander, and then that's enough. I mean, if Saad was like 20 years old and you got somebody 10 years, those 10 years make a difference. I mean, I've just about completed them myself, and I can speak from experience. And so she's able to just sort of deliver this very, in your face kind of critical political speech, but it's more tolerable because she's respectful in the way that she does it. And so for right now, we're still with Arius, and Molly remarks that that he reminds her, or at least the brief time they got to talk, that he reminds her of how Lysander used to be when he was younger. So it's like what we were talking about during the long flashback a few episodes ago. How much is nature, how much is nurture? I mean, it's sort of, who's here? It's there's Seth. Yeah, that line scared people too. This is where you've been hiding. I think some of the people who played it thought it was Lysander. It's like, oh my god, that would have been the worst. But Seth is a trusted face at this point. And but like I was saying before, I'll finish it quick because then we're going to move on to some more scenes. But is that sort of caring part of Arius? Is that what Lysander's core was like? Is that his real personality before he kind of got co-opted by the Gallia philosophy? And that's can't really know the answer to that, but something to think over. And now we find out that Alco has helped Seth's group find the base thanks to his Shadow Mage techniques. And Alco is also a healer, so now we're going to have 2 healers on him. 2 healers and 2 doctors, and that's, we've got a full team here. We just need Dr. House, and that would seal the deal. And so Seth, leaves and looks to find the others. Now we're going to have a bit of a meeting with Sarnath and Mahi in their sort of main tent here. That's a nice big tent, man. You can fit some bookcases in there and 2 tables. But so they took a vote, and Galdar is going to take Arius' place as a sort of unofficial leader. And if you do the math, you can probably deduce that Mina was the swing vote. She played the role of Ohio and swung it for Galdar. So now what they're talking about, there's a lot of diplomatic stuff that goes on, mostly off screen in this part of the game. It basically gives me an excuse to match the characters up in different combinations. Because now that all the playable characters are here, I mean, it's a waste if we're just doing the same groups of 4. Might as well mix and match like we did in the base raid, and just have some fun with the mashing up the characters against each other. So she's going to have Galdar, Mina, Seth, and Zala, and really Zala probably shouldn't go. She's not quite the diplomatic type, but they're going to go. And Seth also needs a transformation stone to get around Gallia, and this is pretty amusing. And it's you kind of need a moment like this because this thing with Arius being hurt is so heavy, and this relieves some of that tension. So and plus there's a little bit of excitement here just to see what's Seth going to look like in his disguise. Is he going to be as handsome as Galdar? And it doesn't look like it. He looks like a old Elvis impersonator or something like that. And oh, pretty bad, dude. And they're trying to be nice about it. Not Zala though, and that's why I said. I mean, that's why Zala should be going to diplomatic missions. And that right there, when he shouts at the mirror and that friggin' Vegeta music from Dragon Ball Z starts playing, that probably gets the biggest laugh in the whole game from the few times that I watch people play through all of it. Something about the contrast. I mean, people dig that. And he's still ranting about it. So that's going to be Seth's disguise, and he's not too happy about it, but at least nobody will probably suspect him of anything. And now we have another surprise here. This is one of the Gallia city councilors, and it turns out that she is one of us. She's one of the rebels. And so if you remember, if you go back and watch that chapter where Lysander was meeting with the council, she suggested that because maybe Lysander, if Lysander had been stripped of command because of his his antagonism during that meeting, that somebody else could have been assigned to the rebellion, and she suggested Felicia, and we know that Felicia is now also on our side. So that would have been quite an accomplishment to put somebody sympathetic to the rebellion in charge of the rebellion, but didn't quite work. Lysander's still in charge of it, but that was a little clue, about her loyalties. So the fact that the rebellion has now got a counselor, in their pocket is a big deal. And she tells them about the warrior tournament, which is an annual event in Gallia, and so we get to go and do that. And so who's going to volunteer? Can you guess? That's none other than Turnus. Turnus is good for a one-on-one. He's got all those buffs and those debuffs and various magic attacks. He's good for this. But of course he can't walk around in his trademark Rutal costume. He's going to have to wear something else. And the rest of them are going to go on the diplomatic mission with them. With Zal and Seth, I don't really know if that's smart to take them, but I digress. Now Turnus has his new armor on, and she's reacting to it, which is kind of funny. And alright, I guess we'll start the tournament next time. Peace.